You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
I am back. Rodrance for Black and White Sports 2. If you're new to the channel, punch the subscribe, like, comment. I am really glad I'm getting to talk about this because I wasn't home when the big news got dropped yesterday that DeAndre Hopkins was released from the Arizona Cardinals. But luckily, there's been some offshoot stories that have come out of that allows me to put my 2 cents in. And the one thing that is starting to emerge, is starting to be evident because of the timing and the way this was done. 2 things have come out, right? One, the Cardinals wanted this dude off the team after he made those comments the other day on the I Am Athlete podcast. And 2, man, the Arizona Cardinals are tanking the season. I mean, this is like the NFL version of tanking, the way they decided to release this guy. And many believe, of course, they've got their eye on the 6'1", and he's roughly, let's see, I got it pulled up here, 6'1", 218-pound Caleb Williams. And even with Kyler Murray having that massive contract, pretty certain they realize Caleb Williams is going to be a much better pro quarterback than Kyler Murray, even though they both came out of that Lincoln Riley offense. Well, Baker Mayfield did too, depending on who you ask. Some people like Baker, some don't. Many consider him a bust. Some think he's still got a run left in him. Who knows what to think, right? When it comes to Baker. Although I was shocked, Chris Sims had him pretty damn high on his list this year still. So, we've got multiple DeAndre Hopkins stories, and let's go with this one, because there's been a story that's come out that says the Cardinals actually had a problem with DeAndre Hopkins at the end of the year, and it was the same kind of thing that happened with Lamar Jackson. DeAndre Hopkins decided to set the season out at the end of the year, and evidently some people inside the Arizona Cardinals organization was pissed by that. Now, it was covered under what was supposed to be the veil of some kind of injury, except that may not have happened. There may not have been an injury. He may have just wanted to set. After attempting to finagle a trade this offseason, and it has kind of come out that there was talks involving Chiefs, the Bills, and we've got a list of the favorites by the betting lines at this point of who could land DeAndre Hopkins. There's been reports out there that the Ravens and the Patriots are already sniffing around as well involving DeAndre Hopkins. The Cardinals finally cut their losses on Friday, released superstar wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. The release came as a shock to the NFL world, who widely expected the Cardinals to drum up a trade partner. But with a significant contract still attached to Hopkins, Arizona ultimately found no takers. Their hand was forced. Now a top wideout hits the market with OTAs activated, already underway through the NFL. But the divorce between Hopkins and the Cardinals seemed inevitable. Maybe that's why nobody traded for him. He sat out the final 2 games of the 2022 regular season despite being healthy, and Kyle Odegaard reports that rubbed some in the organization the wrong way. Wow. During a 2-week stretch where Hopkins set out, the then Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury told reporters the wide receiver's knee was, quote, acting up. However, Kingsbury also admitted that had things been different for the team at the time, Hopkins would have played. Interesting. This is what was said. Hopkins upset some of the Cardinals in the organization by sitting out the final 2 games of the 2022 season, even though he was healthy. Per sources. It may have been a sticky situation if he remained on the team until the trade deadline. The Cardinals finished the 2022 regular season with a record of 4-13 after losing the final 7 games. Hopkins appeared in just 9 contests, having been suspended for 6 weeks to start the season after violating the PED policy. God, he still managed 64 receptions 717 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But here's the thing. With the release of Hopkins, the Cardinals assumed a $22.6 million dead cap hit, which has led to this. And Florio is saying what I think a lot of us might have suspected, that the Cardinals are tanking, officially tanking. When the Cardinals surprisingly cut receiver DeAndre Hopkins on Friday, many assumed they did so with a post-June designation. Per multiple reports, they didn't. Apparently, they couldn't. J.J. Watt, Rodney Hudson already received the post-June 1st designation, and teams are limited to 2 per season. But the Cardinals could have simply waited until next week, cutting Hopkins after June 1 and splitting the cap hit evenly between 2023 and 2024, $11 million each year. Instead, the Cardinals removed the Band-Aid now, taking a full $22 million cap charge. Despite what folks directly or indirectly on the team's payroll are saying, there's no reason to take their lumps now unless they're tanking. They could have saved $11 million in 2023 in cap space by waiting 1 more week, and they could have rolled it all over to 2024 if they had decided not to spend it this year. Cutting or trading him makes no difference. A pre-June 1 trade could have cost $22 million against the cap this year. Post-June 1 would have cost $11 million to hit the cap this year and $11 million next year. They ultimately didn't trade him because nobody wanted to absorb that contract. By cutting Hopkins now, the Cardinals removed the ability to spend the $11 million this year. Yikes. So they could have taken the $11 million and then used it on other talent. Yikes. It's a preemptive exercise in parsimony. Cover for cheapness. No one will expect them to spend $11 million if they don't have it to spend. And they don't have it to spend because they cut Hopkins Friday instead of next Friday. So they deliberately did not want to add talent, it looks like. That's the only explanation for it. They're deliberately tightening the belt. They're trimming $11 million off the top of their current year cap allocation. They know they're not going to be competitive this year, and they're accepting it. It's no different than 2018 when they knew they were going to be bad and they accepted it. Sinking to the bottom of the standings and rising to the top of the draft order. If they do it again, the 2024 offseason will become very interesting with Kyler Murray potentially traded and Caleb Williams potentially drafted to be the latest would-be savior of the team. Boy, I cannot run to the podium quick enough if I'm trading out Kyler Murray for Caleb Williams. Regardless of where it goes from here, that makes you wonder, is Jonathan Gannon a lame duck Steve Wilkes situation already? Yikes. Could it be Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley? They just did Cliff Kingsbury, and one could argue Lincoln is way more qualified to be an NFL head coach with a much better record coming out of college than Cliff had. Wow. Hopkins took a cap hit, or Hopkins there was no reason to tie their hands with a full Hopkins cap hit. No one knows who else might become available between now and week 1, but the Cardinals aren't interested. They don't want to be interested. Otherwise, they would have waited a week and kept $11 million available, just in case. They're going to be very bad in 2023 in the hopes of getting very good draft position in 2024 when they finally turn it around again. But hey, at least they got new uniforms this year. And in case you're wondering who the favorites are for Hopkins right now, DraftKings has installed the Bills at a plus 300 favorite, with the Chiefs at plus 400, Ravens at plus 650, and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets at plus 750. Keep in mind, if the Bills jump up and grab this guy, DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox, and rookie Dalton Kincaid. Woo! Yikes. That is all of a sudden some serious talent. If it was the Chiefs, you got Travis Kelce, Kadarius Toney, who all of a sudden has life with the Chiefs, and of course Patrick Mahomes for a Super Bowl run. Wow. So Florio is saying, and I didn't know this till I was just perusing so I could do a DeAndre Hopkins video. I said, oh, that is interesting. And then I got to reading, I was like, unless you're tanking, why would you not have waited 1 week to put $11 million back in your pocket in hopes of finding some talent still on the market, even if you got to go out and sign 2 number 3s to put in your receiving core, or maybe a number 2 that you might find out there? I don't know who that would be. Or maybe you could make a trade and take on somebody like, for example, the Jets would like to trade Corey Davis. You know, he's probably a number 2, but they got more than enough receiving talent out there in Jets land. So you get my point, right? They could have maybe put a 6th with something and got Corey Davis, because the Jets may end up letting him go as well, and they could have used that $11 million to pay that salary. They said, no, we don't want to get any better. Kyler Murray's going to be out, and he may be out, period. Think about this. When DeAndre Hopkins was released yesterday, it became pretty evident there's a real chance here. The release of DeAndre Hopkins was the letting go of Kyler Murray later, too. Because if they finish with the worst record in the league, and we know Seattle's going to be good, we know San Francisco's going to be good. And look, who knows what the Rams are going to be, but if Matthew Stafford is healthy, they're going to be better. They're going to score points with the LA Rams. The Cardinals could have the worst record. And I guarantee you, if the Cardinals have any sense whatsoever, Kyler Murray will be jettisoned somewhere so Caleb Williams can get drafted. Because that dude is one of the best prospects we've seen in a long time. And look, he's not the only one. Next year's quarterback draft is deep. It is deep. So this is interesting. It is. I still wonder if there's not a dark horse out there. Like I said, the Ravens are sniffing around. The Ravens are on here as the number 3 favorite, and the Patriots are sniffing around. Bill O'Brien, DeAndre Hopkins back together. Now, you might be like, well, yeah, but DeAndre's attitude in New England. Look, Belichick is not afraid to take on guys that's had issues in the past and them be successful. Randy Moss, Corey Dillon, both very successful with the Patriots. Think about that. In fact, Corey Dillon was a certified badass back in the day. People forget his resurgence in New England. Question is, who the hell would take Kyler Murray? Because there's been a lot of pundits out there, most notably Chris Sims. Chris Sims that said that Kyler Murray is literally, or was literally, off of like half of all NFL teams' draft boards coming out in that draft. Even though he was going to be the number 1 pick, he was off half the draft boards. Want to know why? Too small. Some teams, a lot of people don't realize this, some teams have NFL criteria that they stick to for a minimum height and a minimum weight size for quarterbacks. Anybody that does not reach it is not even in consideration. That is a thing. I would wonder, though, how many people changed that for Bryce Young this year, because his skill set, particularly at truly playing quarterback, was a hell of a lot better than Kyler Murray's coming out. A lot more like a pro-style quarterback coming out, although the size is similar. Tell me what you think. The Cardinals throwing in the towel, bitches. They're done. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.